Will Muschamp was a disaster, Jim McElwain did not live up to the hype, and Dan Mullen is trying to get Florida back to national title relevance. Last year, the Gators got pretty close, as they played Alabama very tough in the SEC Championship, but unfortunately they slipped up against both Texas A&M and LSU, so they were really out of the college football playoff picture before conference championship weekend. Looking ahead towards 2021, many people have mixed feelings about the Florida Gators. Some think they'll be really good, while others think they will take a major step back. They lost the 3 Ks in Kadarius Toney, Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Trask, so they do have a lot of production and stars to replace, but there are plenty of talented players, a good coaching staff is there in Gainesville, and there's a lot of optimism for this team. In today's video, I want to preview the 2021 Florida Gators, go through their roster, their depth chart, some of the major storylines, the schedule, and give a prediction for this team. But right before we get into it, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed, and you're definitely not going to want to miss out on any of this content for the season, so be sure to hit that button as I very much appreciate it. Now let's get started and talk about Florida football. So as we always do, let's go back to 2020 to see how the Gators did last year. They're obviously in their 3rd year under head coach Dan Mullen, and they were actually picked to finish first in the East last year. They came into the season ranked number 5 in the country, and they would play against Ole Miss in their first game. They ended up winning by 2 scores, and the Kyle Trask to Kyle Pitts connection started there. They beat South Carolina by 14 points the following week, and then they had a huge matchup on the road against number 21 Texas A&M. It was one of the largest crowds of the 2020 season, and in a thrilling game, A&M would kick a game-winning field goal as time expired, and that upset the Gators. After that, they'd have to wait a couple weeks before they would play against the Missouri Tigers, and they would win that game very comfortably, and most notably, there was actually a brawl at halftime. From there, they beat number 5 Georgia by 2 scores, and they are in the driver's seat in the SEC East. They would easily take care of Arkansas and Vanderbilt the following 2 weeks, before they would comfortably beat Kentucky and win by 12 points on the road against Tennessee. At this point, they are a legitimate playoff contender, and they just had to win one more game before they'd have their chance for practically a play-in spot with Bama in the SEC Championship game. The LSU game was close, but you guys know exactly what I'm about to talk about, as Marco Wilson threw one of the LSU players' shoes, and it gave LSU a chance to kick a field goal in which they would hit. From there, Florida would go down the field and have a chance to send the game to overtime, but the field goal would be short, and LSU upset the Gators in the swamp and ended their playoff hopes. This seemed to make Florida even angrier going into that SEC Championship game, and while they truly never had a shot to win it, Florida was the last team at the ball and they were down 6, and if they would have converted some sort of Hail Mary or miracle lateral play, they would have won, but that didn't happen. They went into the Cotton Bowl and got absolutely embarrassed, as multiple guys decided to opt out, and some people criticized Dan Mullen for how he responded in the press conference. The Sooners beat them 55-20, and it wasn't even a game. So yeah, overall it was a weird year for Florida, as they ended up going 8-4, and they definitely seemed to be better than that record showed. There is no more Kyle Trask, but it is finally time to unleash Emory Jones. He is the presumed starter right now, and while some Florida fans think he has hit his ceiling, or that Anthony Richardson is the better option, it looks like Emory Jones will be QB1 to start out the year, and Mullen has faith in him. He was originally an Ohio State commit coming out of high school, and was also considered a 5-star recruit at one point. His stock did take a little bit of a dip, but he's a guy who's super athletic and can both pass and run the ball. He may be a better runner at this stage of his career than he is a passer, but he's definitely a lot different than Kyle Trask. I made a video about him a couple months ago if you want to check that one out, but I think Emory Jones will have a good year, and he's either going to be a guy like Jeremy Johnson, or he's going to break out like Dak Prescott. In terms of the backups, I already mentioned Anthony Richardson, as many people think he is the best passer on the team, and someone who has a higher ceiling, and I definitely think he will play. Outside of that, you have Carlos Del Rio, which is the brother of former Florida quarterback Luke Del Rio, and then you have Jalen Kitna. Overall, I like the quarterback room, but I would like to see Emory Jones or Anthony Richardson establish himself as a star. The running back position is pretty loaded to say the least. The starters should be Dameon Pierce and Naquan Wright, as those 2 guys were the most efficient backs a year ago. Outside of that, you have plenty more guys who have talent, including Malik Davis, as he's the best receiving back on the team, and then you have former 5-star recruit DeMarcus Bowman, who transferred in from Clemson, and Lorenzo Lingard, who is a highly rated recruit out of Miami. That room is absolutely loaded, and I expect all 5 guys to get some touches. Kyle Pitts was sort of a tight end wide receiver hybrid, so we're going to group him into the wide receivers that they lost. Plus, then you lost Kadarius Toney, who was also a first-round pick, so it is a position where players need to step up. So who exactly are the options? Well, you have former top 10 recruit and Penn State transfer Justin Shorter, as the word around that Florida program is that Shorter is going to have a breakout year. And then another guy who could break out is Xavier Henderson. At the slot position, you're likely going to see Trent Whittemore and Rick Wells, as I like both of those players, and they need to replace Tony. Finally, at that final wide receiver spot, you'll need to replace Trayvon Grimes, and Jacob Copeland is just the next guy to go there. Some other guys who could see the field who are more unproven are Jordan Pouncey, who was formerly at Texas, Jamarcus Weston, Jaquavion Fraziers, and Dejon Reynolds. At the tight end spot, you're going to see Kamori Gamble and Keon Zipperer. Moving over to that defensive side of the ball, there are 3 players in particular who I'm super excited to watch, and that includes Zach Carter, Ventrell Miller, and Kaiir Elam. Some people say Elam is a top 10 pick and could be one of the top secondary players in all of college football, and I would definitely have to agree. Other defensive starters should include Daquan Newkirk, Antonio Valentino, Brenton Cox, Jaden Hill, and Trevez Johnson. Other guys such as true freshman Jason Marshall and Missouri transfer Jadarius Perkins should all see the field as well. You also cannot forget Trey Dean, who has been a part of this program for a little while now, and Daquan Newkirk, who at one point transferred in from Auburn. Overall, the defense is going to need to improve in 2021, as at times they were not spectacular last year, and I know that side of the ball has been under a lot of criticism over the last few years. There's a lot to figure out, but there's plenty of talent there, and I'm very excited to see what happens. If you're a Florida fan, let me know who your breakout player at each skill position group is, a player I missed, something I got right or wrong, and just your overall thoughts. Now let's go ahead and go to the schedule and see how I think Florida's going to end up doing. So as we take a look at this schedule, they open up on a pretty easy stage like most teams do, as they play against Florida Atlantic. This game should be over by halftime, and it will be a 1-0 start for the Gators. Their second game is a little bit tricky. South Florida has been up and down this decade, and they're trying to find their new way under second-year head coach Jeff Scott. And while I think the Bulls will be one of the top teams in the American in the coming years, they're not going to be able to get it done right now, and Florida's going to win this game by a couple scores on the road. The real game is week 3. Number 1, Alabama will come to the Swamp, and this game is going to be fun. The first 2 weeks are all about figuring out who the best players are and what does and doesn't work, and Florida's going to need to play a nearly perfect game if they want to upset Alabama. They will have the fans and the hype surrounding them, but will Emory Jones be able to get it done, and will the defense be good enough to stop this Crimson Tide team? But as of right now, I'm going to have to side with Bama until Florida proves me wrong. I would absolutely love to see Florida win this game, and I'm honestly rooting for them to win this game, but as of right now, the Tide are going to roll. From there, Florida gets a game at home against Tennessee. For the most part, they have not had any trouble with the Volunteers over the last few years, and I don't think that's going to change. Josh Heupel is going to make this offense more explosive, but Florida is just a better team, and while Tennessee could easily make this game interesting and surprise us, I'm going to give Florida the benefit of the doubt, and they're going to be 3-1. Now we get to our second game that's going to determine this season, as they will go on the road to Kentucky. Mark Stoops has done a tremendous job so far with that Wildcats program. They have a tremendous offensive line, a great defense, some really good wide receivers, and one of the best running backs in the country in Chris Rodriguez, but the biggest question mark for me is that quarterback spot. Penn State transfer Will Levis was named the starter, and I'm not ultra high on him. I obviously hope he does well and sees success, but I was not a big fan of this quarterback room, as we just saw Joey Gatewood transfer to UCF, and Kentucky's quarterback play is going to hold them back in this game, and while they might keep it close, I think Florida wins this one in a close one, and they're now 4-1. After that, they get a tune-up game against Vanderbilt, and there should be absolutely no reason that the Commodores hang around, especially in year 1 under a new head coach. From there, they go on the road to number 16 LSU, and in my opinion, this is a 50-50 game. I do have a few concerns with LSU, but at this point, it is October 16th, and I think the Tigers and that coaching staff in Baton Rouge will have everything figured out, and all those talented players will have stepped up, and LSU will be playing some of their best football. Because this game is on the road, I'm going to go with the Tigers, and that will hand Florida their second loss of the year. They will have a third loss as they will play against Georgia the following week, and while Florida did beat them last year, and I think this will be a good game, I'm a huge believer in the JT Daniels hype train, and I think this is Georgia's year to get back to the playoff, so I'm going to go with the Bulldogs, and at this point Florida has 3 losses. From there, they'll go on the road to play South Carolina, and right now, I don't think South Carolina is in a spot to win this game, so I'm going to pick Florida, but stranger things have happened. After that, they play their annual FCS school as they will take care and obliterate Samford at home, before another tricky game. I wouldn't quite say this game is 50-50, but Florida has had some trouble with Missouri over the last few years. I still am obviously going to give the nod to Florida, but with Missouri being at home and them potentially trying to seal up bowl eligibility, I could see this game being close and sort of a trap game for Florida. I'm going to give this one to the Gators though. Finally, they will go back home to play their rival Florida State. And while I'm not saying Florida State's going to win the ACC, I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year, and they'll at least be competitive. I'm still going to give this win to Florida though, and that will give them a 9-3 regular season record. From there, I would have to see who they are matched up against in order to pick if they would win their bowl game or not, but we'll have to wait and see. So as I previously stated, I think the Gators are going to go 9-3, with definite losses coming to Georgia and Alabama, and neither a loss to Kentucky, LSU, or Missouri. The 5 games that are going to determine this season are obviously that Week 3 matchup with Bama, the road contest with Kentucky, the road matchup with LSU, the neutral site game with Georgia, and that road contest with Missouri. I think it's safe to assume they're going to at least win 2 of those games, maybe 3, and who knows, maybe they pull off the win against Bama or Georgia. I'd love to say the Gators are going to go 10-2, but I just think they're going to slip up somewhere as there's just too much experience and star power that they lost. This could be a really fun year for both Florida and SEC fans, as I think there'll be a ton of good matchups on this schedule. What do you guys think though? If you're a Florida fan, let me know what I got right and wrong, your personal prediction for the team, the breakout players, and your overall expectations for the 2021 season. If you're a fan of another school, also feel free to let me know what your thoughts are on today's video and what team I should do next. Before you go, if you want to support my work, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps, and also don't forget to subscribe. Before you go, check out my video about what happened to Trayvon Grimes and all my other previews. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.